Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Shannon Razadin. I'm the President and Executive Director of the Military Family Advisory Network, MFAN for short. And today we are here to have a really important conversation about a new benefit that's going to be coming out of the DoD as part of their taking care of people. The Pentagon obviously has an incredibly long-standing commitment to supporting military families, and they have released 6 new efforts that are really focused on supporting military families. And one of those is a new flexible spending account. So today I'm here with 2 experts who are going to share more information about the benefit, what you need to know, and how you can navigate this as we all work together to make sure that we take care of our families and get to every point of thriving we possibly can. So I'm going to introduce 2 colleagues who are going to share a bit more information about this. And what's important to remember is that this is the tip of the iceberg. What we're going to share here today is the start of information sharing, but there's a lot more that we'll be learning over the course of the next several months as we get ready to roll out this important benefit. So I'm going to start with you, Jennifer. If you could just introduce yourself and your role, and then Michelle will go to you next.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Shannon, and thank you for putting this together. It's great. We have a lot of information to share with the community, and as you mentioned, we'll be rolling out more detailed information as we get closer and closer to our launch. So I'm Jennifer Walker. I'm a DoD civilian. I'm currently serving in the Office for the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, Military Personnel Policy, and I'm serving as the Executive Director for Dependent Care Flexible Spending Accounts. My sole responsibility is to roll out this benefit for our families as part of the Taking Care of Our People initiatives. And I'll also note that I'm a military veteran and a military spouse, and I'm really passionate about programs that help our military community. So I'm really excited to be part of this rollout.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And the work that you're doing is Herculean. And this might sound easy to folks, but the behind the scenes work that goes into this, we can't say that enough, how important it is and how critical it is, and really glad that you're in this role to make sure that this goes as smoothly as possible, because it really is a big deal for all of us. Michelle, if you could introduce yourself and your role. And I have to say, we're so thrilled that JPMorgan Chase continues its investment in the military and veteran community, and thank you for supporting this event today.
All right. Well, thank you, Shannon. It's great to join you all today. I'm Michelle Godfrey. I lead the financial health and wealth creation pillar for the Military and Veterans Center of Excellence with JPMorgan Chase. That's a lot, but our goal is really committed to ensuring that military families and veterans continue to have opportunities to reach their financial goals as they're actively serving as they transition. I too am a military spouse, so I understand the challenges financial health can be for military families, as well as I'm excited to be here today to just talk about this added benefit that Department of Defense has so tediously worked hard on to deliver for military families. So thank you again for having us, and we value the partnership and relationship that we have with MFAN.
Awesome. And the timeliness is really important. So it is the end of the month of the military child. So we celebrate military kids in the month of April, and it's also Military Saves Weeks. And so this is a really exciting time to come together and talk about this benefit, which impacts both those areas, right? Military kids, and then also our bottom line, our budgeting and our savings. And one thing that's really important to remember about savings is it's not just about growing your savings account. It's about identifying and leveraging all the tools and resources that are out there so that your family can get to the healthiest financial status and point that it can. And so with that, Jennifer, we're going to start with you. If you could just explain to the group, what is an FSA? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the analogy you just made to tools, because I've been telling people this is another tool in their toolbox for childcare. This is not a program that's going to help you find childcare, but it is a program that's going to help you save. And it's going to have some tax savings. And when I say tax savings, if you sign up for a flexible spending account, the dollars that you put in this account will be tax-free. And that means no federal taxes, no state taxes, no Social Security taxes, no Medicare taxes. These dollars will be tax-free. for your family to spend on eligible dependent care expenses. And we'll talk about a little bit later what the types of those expenses are. But dependent care, it could include a child, it could include an older individual who might be an EFMP family, it could include we have members who have tax dependents who are their parents who happen to be living with them. So there's a wide variety of expenses you can use these accounts for. There's a wide variety of dependents who are eligible. And like I said, it's up to $5,000 that can be put in this account tax-free.
Awesome. And that $5,000, that can make a huge difference. And one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about are some of the tools and resources that are out there broadly to support military families as it relates to their finances. And JP Morgan Chase has really been a champion of this and making sure that people are armed with the information that they have so that they can navigate this financial journey that they are on. Michelle, can you talk a little bit about the work that you all have done to support military and veteran families as it relates to their finances?
So generally speaking, one of the biggest ways that we do that is through our financial education tools that we have, utilizing our JP Morgan, My Financial Journey, My Financial Credit Journey, also partnering with nonprofits that are closely related to the military community to be able to help support their efforts, whether it be through surveys, whether it be through the development and creation of financial readiness tools, as well as even sometimes with hardship funds for some of those NGOs who offer assistance with affordable housing or even food security. So those are some of the ways that we do that with JP Morgan, as well as we have a commitment to supporting organizations as well as JP Morgan to hire and retain veterans as well as military spouses.
That's awesome. And that second income and the ability to support that is a huge, huge benefit. Jennifer, going back to you on the FSA and what the department will be rolling out, what are some of the things that, it's a nuanced benefit. It can seem overwhelming. It can seem complicated. What are some of the things that you want to make sure that people are aware of, and how can they start thinking about this now, knowing that there is still time really between now and when the benefit will be rolling out?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is a nuanced program. It is a program that is through the IRS, and it's something that will impact your taxes. So there's a lot of planning involved in this. We really, really encourage members to go and talk to a financial counselor, and we can share some resources about where to go. But essentially, there are personal financial counselors available at most military installations worldwide. There's a way that you can schedule an appointment to meet with any of them, or you can have a phone conversation. Military One Source is another great one. You can call Military One Source for financial counseling. We also have MilTax, which is a great resource for tax help. And as I mentioned, this is an IRS program. So, if there's one big foot stomp that I could get across to everyone here today, knowing that there's a lot of details in this program, it's start getting your financial situation prepared. Go and talk to a financial counselor, go and talk to a tax counselor. Make sure you have a good picture of your financial situation, and that will help you to be able to take care of this benefit once it becomes available to our service members. And one other thing I'll note as well is that if a member has a spouse who is a DoD civilian or a civilian at any other company, about 45% of companies in the private sector do offer this benefit today. And it is also available to DoD civilians. So something for them to go out and look at. Certainly open enrollment is over at this point, but if there is a qualifying life event, those can be things like marriage, divorce, having a child, relocating, that would enable that member to sign up for the account as well.
That's awesome. And can you, Michelle, FSAs, they're newer to the Department of Defense, but they're not necessarily a benefit that is new broadly, right? It's something that has existed for a bit. Can you talk a little bit about, some of the things that you've seen related to FSAs and how they've impacted people's financial situation, and just some of the things that people should broadly be aware of as it relates to flexible spending accounts?
Well, I'll just add, in addition to what Jennifer has said, FSAs can help families much manage some of those expense costs that are associated with dependent care. We all know that childcare is probably one of the largest expenses and one of the larger reasons why people use an FSA account. And it can be really expensive. And so utilizing the FSA account can help reduce an individual's tax liability. Now, as Jim said, you want to go ahead and you want to review your finances to see if this is going to be most advantageous to you and to see how it fits into your overall big picture of your own personal financial health. But in addition to dependent type care, you can also use it if you have not necessarily a child dependent, but an adult dependent for those types of things. And the things that you can pay for, summer camps, daycare, nanny, and au pair, and even after school care. So even if you've got that child out of daycare, but there's an after school or before school camp that needs to be covered as you both as parents are working, or it could be very beneficial in those instances as well.
I can relate to that. Summer's coming up and it's like the Hunger Games is how I like to describe it, of figuring out summer camp, right? And so it's really good to know that summer camp is something that can be offset thanks to an FSA. And also as we think about, the caregiver situation, and you just touched on that, Michelle, that's a really, diverse population, especially in the military space. And so it's nice to think, outside the box here, obviously within the parameters the IRS sets, but this is something that I think is really going to have a lot of impact, especially on this community, especially related to the moves. So we were talking a little bit about those qualifying life events. Jennifer, can you talk a little bit more about those? And then also when military families can expect to really see this rolling out? We know what we need to do to prepare, and, talking to financial counselors, utilizing Military One Source and the resources there. But when will this really start to hit people's inboxes as far as how to enroll?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll talk about qualifying life events first. So qualifying life events are set by the IRS. They're used for many other things, typically in the healthcare space. But qualifying life events are something that changes your personal situation, that might change what you had elected for, in this case, a dependent care flexible spending account. So, let's say you go see a personal financial counselor, you and your spouse, have over $5,000 in expenses that you're anticipating for the year, and that's what you elect. And then the following year, maybe you have a new child and your spouse decides to stay home and you no longer have those $5,000 of expenses. That's what a qualifying life event is. So that qualifying life event in this case is the addition of a child to your family. You can then change your election. So you can reduce your election, increase your election, although you cannot go over $5,000 due to that qualifying life event. There's a laundry list of things that are qualifying life events. I would encourage you to go out to FSA Feds and look at the list that's currently out there. It's things like relocation, marriage, divorce, a child. Another key provision of this is that for childcare, unless you have a dependent who is physically or mentally incapable of self-care, so that would be our EF&P families, children do age out of this program when they turn age 13. So that's something to also take into account. If you know your child's going to turn 13, then any expenses for them for dependent care would no longer be eligible. So, we've talked about this a lot throughout the conversation. This is very nuanced. There's a lot of information that we'll be rolling out with an educational campaign later this year so that people can really learn about the program, understand the program, and make informed decisions on whether or not they choose to participate. When we expect to get it out, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. We're working extremely hard to roll out this benefit. Right now, we're targeting the earliest available would be the open season that starts in November of this year. So what that would mean is that members would sign up between mid-November and mid-December, and then the program would take effect on January 1st for the 2024 tax year. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and we'll be making some additional announcements later this year, and that will include the educational campaign that I've been talking about, more information, more details to help people make an informed decision. And one last thing I'll share is that don't wait, go and talk to these people. You can get free resources to help you and your family with financial planning. And even if at the end of the day you decide this is not the right program for you, the benefit is that you've improved your family's financial situation. You've learned more about financial planning, about financial health, and that's a great benefit that we want to make sure that everyone in our military is informed about and knows is there for them.
100%. And financial health really is a thread that carries through on so many different areas of well-being. And so that's super important, and not to wait until you learn more or you hear more. Take that proactive next step and really take control of the situation as much as you can. And you're right, this might not be the right fit for everyone, and that's okay, because you're going to learn so much through going through the process. Leverage the resources that are out there, like Military OneSource, like what JP Morgan Chase has available. And I'm hoping, if we go next to Michelle, you've been around this space for a long time. What are some of the pitfalls or things that people should be aware of related to this? And then where should they really go to make sure that they're learning as much as they can, especially in this intermediate time between when it's rolling out?
Okay. Well, I will say some of the pitfalls that some people could possibly face is not knowing that the benefit actually is a benefit for them. Sometimes people gloss over certain things because it can seem really complex or really difficult to manage or look at. And that is where, to your next question, where do they go? I'm a big proponent of encouraging military families to go to your installation family service center, whether it's Army Community Service or Marine Corps Community Service or Air Force Community Service, whatever military family service support center is available to you on your installation, the closest installation to you. Go set up an appointment with the accredited financial counselor, PFM, on that installation to help get an assessment of your personal financial situation. I'm sorry about that. But they'll help you to review your LES, to review your spouse's income or your expenses that you may have, so that you can make a determination as to whether or not this benefit is for you. As Jennifer mentioned, you can learn so much from just having that little checkup, if you will, in those particular things. Also, Military OneSource is a good resource to utilize, as well as MFund or other military affiliated nonprofit organizations, that there's going to be so much information coming out. And when you've read it all and you can't figure out which way to go, stop by that installation financial readiness department, and they'll be able to help guide you so that you can understand. And remember, this is a personal decision. Just because it's offered doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it or that it is for everyone. This is a personal decision, and it is based on your own personal circumstances and situations.
I love that. And I think that a big thing too is that awareness component. And one thing that we really focus on as an organization is, there are so many resources out there, but sometimes it's a question if you're aware of them. And so I think that talking about the benefit, talking about going to Military OneSource, talking about the resources that are available locally, even if it's something that might not benefit that person you're talking to, they'll talk about it. And then it spreads that positive information sharing, which really can promote the help-seeking behavior that we're all trying to help military families achieve. Now, in closing, what are some of the last thoughts that you have? What are the things that, oh shoot, I didn't get to that yet, that you want people to be aware of? We'll start with you, Jennifer, and then we'll go to you, Michelle.
All right, so throughout, I think I foot stomped talking to a personal financial counselor or a tax consultant, and Michelle has really helped me foot stomp that one. The other thing I want to say is that we didn't talk a lot about the amount that you can contribute. It's up to $5,000 per family, but you can contribute as little as $100. And that $100 will then be tax-free. And you really want to plan this based upon what you expect your expenses are going to be. Because in order to get that money back, you have to claim it. So save your receipts, make sure you submit your receipts and get that money back. There is a grace period, which is great. So the tax year, I think as we're all aware, runs from January 1st through December 31st, but there is a grace period into the following year up until March 15th, which is great. You can still incur eligible expenses during that time period. But if you don't submit a claim for the money, those funds are forfeited. And we certainly want to make sure people are educated and make an informed decision and don't forfeit any funds. So It's important to look at what you expect your expenses to be. I know we have a lot of spouses who work part-time, and so maybe you don't have $5,000 of expenses. You can elect anywhere between $100 and $5,000. And I think the last thing I'll say is we'll have more information coming. Please stay engaged. Please share this with your networks. We're getting, just the fact that we're doing this today is fantastic. Thank you so much, Shannon, for setting this up. But also we'll have a lot more information coming out throughout the year. Watch Military OneSource, watch your social media feeds, and please stay engaged. Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was perfect. And Michelle, we'll go to you next.
Well, in addition to what Jen has already shared, I would just say, remember that, I would encourage leaders to invite your personal financial counselors on your installations over to offer different trainings once that information is available, as well as we should all just take a look and see if this is a good benefit for us. Because as we know, many of us are living in that sandwich generation where we're caring for maybe dependents who are 13 and under, and we may also have some dependents who are older, like our parents, who we may be caring for. So it's not just for those people with young children who are in daycare and may qualify, but also for those who are caregivers and may have dependents who are above that age and qualify under these particular requirements for the FSA. Overall, I think it's a great opportunity that the Department of Defense is now offering that mirrors really some of the benefits that civilians are offered in the civilian sector.
Yeah, it really is. And the effort that's going into this is really encouraging and inspiring. Childcare and being able to pay for childcare is a barrier that impacts a variety of different budget lines. And that can be anything also from, can you get a job, to things that are more health focused? Like, do you have time in the money and the resources to go to a doctor's appointment? And this is going to give some of the flexibility, I think, that will really make a big difference for a lot of military families. I want to close out by saying thank you and really encouraging everyone who's watching to continue to learn about this, talk about it as a family, think through what makes the most sense. Remember that all questions are good questions. This is something that can be a complex program. And so lean on the resources that are available locally through Military OneSource, through nonprofits, and really make sure that you're also talking about it. So as many military families as possible are aware of this. And so that when the information comes out and when this education campaign launches, it'll already be familiar. It'll be information that people know about, they know to expect, and they can pay attention to, because it is something that could impact a lot of lives. And so Jennifer, Michelle, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for sharing this information, and really grateful for the opportunity to connect with you all on this.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you very much to MFAN for putting this together.
Thank you.